Hey guys, let's do this problem together. It says drag and drop the vocabulary words and numbers correctly into the Venn diagram below. All right, so I'm going to start with my outermost section. It's called rational numbers. So when we're talking about rational numbers, this includes most numbers that exist. Okay, any number that can be written as a fraction in simplest form. Okay, when we're talking about integers, our middle section here, these are numbers that include positive and negative whole numbers, and it also includes zero. Okay. And then my innermost section is whole numbers. So whole numbers are a set of whole numbers. Those are like counting numbers, and that also includes zero. So remember, counting numbers would be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, are whole numbers, and also zero. Now let's talk about how these all relate to each other. So whole numbers is a subset of integers, and that means that all whole numbers are also integers. Okay. And then also we have whole numbers and integers. They are subsets of rational numbers. And that means every whole number is an integer, and both whole numbers and integers are also rational numbers. And so rational numbers includes most numbers that exist. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and place these numbers into the Venn diagram in their most specific section. So what that means is that sometimes we have numbers that are whole numbers, and they're all three. They're whole numbers, integers, and rational numbers because they're in the middle section. And then sometimes we have numbers that belong only in the rational number section because they don't meet the requirements to be an integer or a whole number. And then we have some numbers that are integers that don't meet the requirements to become a whole number, but they are integers and they are also rational numbers. So placing them specifically, that's what we're working on. So I'm going to start with probably the easiest one, and that's 25. So I know 25 is like a counting number. If I could count to 25. And so that means that it is a whole number, a positive whole number. So in this section, we can only put positive counting numbers or whole numbers, and also zero would go here as well. Okay. And I look and I don't see any counting numbers just yet, but we'll come back to that in a minute. Next, we'll talk about integers. So integers, if it's going to fall in this specific section and it's not a whole number, then this is really just our negative counting numbers. Of course, all whole numbers are integers also, but if I want to place something in this middle section, I have to think of negative counting numbers. Negative counting numbers, that would include negative 33. I can count to that number, but it is negative. And you might think that negative 18.2, well, that's also negative. Shouldn't it be an integer? That's incorrect because that it's a decimal. So when we're counting, we don't stop at 18.2 after 18. We don't go 18, 18.2, 19. Okay, so this number will not fall as an integer because this is only going to be negative counting numbers in this section. So this is actually a rational number. Negative 18.2 is a rational number and only a rational number. It's not an integer. It's not a whole number, even though it is negative, but it has a decimal there. So it does not qualify as the other terms that we have here. Okay, and then negative 7 or negative 0.7463, that is just a rational number. It's a decimal. It doesn't qualify as an integer or a whole number. So in this section, this outer section, we're mostly going to find our fractions and decimals, and that includes negative fractions and decimals. In the integer section, we're going to find negative counting numbers. And in our whole number section, we're going to find positive counting numbers and zero. And then we get to 25 fifths. And at first you might think, oh, it's a rational number and nothing else because it's a fraction. Well, you have to always divide your fractions, especially if they're, if they're improper, you really want to divide your fraction to make sure that it's just a rational number. So if you divide this fraction and you get a decimal, then it is a rational number. But if you divide this fraction and you get a whole number, then it's a whole number. If we divide this fraction and get a negative whole number, it's an integer. So be careful with that. So then we ask ourselves, what is 25 divided by 5? 25 divided by 5 is 5. 5 is a counting number, and so therefore it is a whole number. Okay, so now we have placed these numbers in their most specific section. Okay, remember though, if a number is a whole number, It is all three terms. If a number like 25, 25 is a whole number, but 25 is also an integer, and 25 is also a rational number because it's in this innermost subset, meaning it's contained within all the set of whole numbers, all the set of integers, and also all the set of rational numbers. All right. Thank you so much for watching.